I'm Patrick Byers, Horticulture Field Specialist with University of Missouri Extension based in Webster County.
I am Juan Cabrera, Horticulture Field Specialist based in Butler County.
I'm Katie Kammler, Horticulture Field Specialist based in St. Genevieve County.
And today we're going to talk to you about how to harvest fruit crops to ensure that you're going to have a high quality product for your clients. So your main purpose when you harvest fruit crops is to make sure that you have a high quality product for your end client. And one of the things that you have to understand is that there are different ways fruit crops develop once they are harvested. So we're going to talk about climatic versus non-climatic fruits, and we're going to talk about what that means. But what is important about this is that these two different groups of fruits will dictate the timing of harvest, what market outlets are more appropriate for each fruit crop, how you will handle and store these fruits once you harvest them, and it will also dictate how you will manage shipping for fruit crops. So let's begin with climatic fruits. And these are fruits that they continue to develop until full physiological maturity, even after you remove them from the plant. In other words, what this means is that they will keep ripening once harvested. They will gain flavor, and the texture of the fruit is going to change because the fruit itself is going to convert the starches into sugars. And examples of climatic fruits include some stone fruits, cantaloupes, that's my Spanish coming out, cantaloupes, bananas, pears, and apples. So in terms of harvesting, you harvest these when they're, if you're gonna ship them for long distances, it is important for you to harvest them when they're green. They're fully developed, but they're not ripe, they're green. That way you can ensure that they will ship easily and they'll be able to withstand some shipping damage. Once the fruit reaches the final destination and you need to ripen these fruits, you can use ethylene, which is a natural occurring hormone in plants. And this compound stimulates and speeds up the ripening process. On the other hand, we have non-climatic fruits. And these are fruits that they develop to full physiological maturity when they are attached to the plants. That means that if you harvest them, they're not going to keep ripening. That process stops there. Examples of these non-climatic fruits include berries, cherries, some citrus fruits, grapes, strawberries, and watermelons. So you want to harvest them. You want to harvest these fruits at peak maturity, and since you're gonna harvest them when the texture is right and the flavor is right, you need to be a little bit extra careful when you're shipping this because they're gonna be more susceptible to shipping damage. Now, ethylene does not help. Ethylene does not stimulate ripening process. On the contrary, ethylene is gonna accelerate the fruit deterioration. Now we're gonna look at two examples of non-climatic fruits, and we're gonna have Katie Kammler talk to us about blueberries, and Patrick Byers is gonna talk to us about blackberries. And I think here's
Juan.
When you're picking blueberries, you want to get your hands underneath, your thumb on the stem, and just roll. They'll come off real easy in your hand without any stems on that way. If you accidentally get a berry that's got a purple backside, like this one right here, you don't want that berry. Now, you can't help but getting a few of those, but it's best just to drop them on the ground. If you don't believe it, taste one. And as you put them in your bucket, you look in your bucket. If you see a green berry or a berry with a purple backside, pick it out and throw it away. We don't want you taking those home. A lot of the new growers that just start out always want to leave people start picking berries just as soon as they start turning blue. They're not ripe yet. There's only one way to tell if a berry is ripe, even when it's blue, is to taste it. And that is the only way, other than going to a scientific experiment and figure how much bricks is in the berries.
And now we're going to Patrick to talk about blackberries.
Thank you, Katie. Blackberries, again, are a good example of a non-climacteric fruit where you get what you get when you harvest them. So it is very important to harvest blackberries at the proper stage for the intended market. It's also important to harvest them at the proper stage because it will directly influence post-harvest handling, storage, and the window of time that you have available to market that fruit. So let's take a quick look at blackberries. So again, blackberries being a non-climacteric fruit, harvest time is very important. And blackberries physiologically go through several stages during the ripening process. They begin as a green fruit, then they develop a reddish color as ripening commences. And then as they ripen fully, they develop a glossy black color and finally a dull or a dusty black color. And it's important to understand these different stages because as the fruit ripens, we see a change in the balance of sugars and acids. And flavor, of course, is directly influenced by the balance of sugars and acids. It's also influenced by the development of aromatic compounds that begin to become noticeable as the fruit ripens. But again, very important to harvest at the proper stage. Now, the two stages that we're primarily interested in from the standpoint of blackberries are shiny black and dull black. And shiny black, which is shown by the upper picture, the fruit is noticeably shiny. Yes, it's fully colored, but it's very shiny. At this stage, the berries are firmer. This is the stage at which a farmer would harvest berries if these berries are going to be graded, packed, and shipped any distance. Now, the trade-off to having firmer fruit is that the berries are less sweet. It's still a very acceptable product, but there will be a difference in flavor between shiny black fruit and dull black fruit. Dull black fruit, as we see in the lower picture, these berries have a higher concentration of sugars relative to acids. The berries are softer, they have a reduced shelf life, and typically berries harvested at dull black, yes, they're going to taste better, but they're really only suitable for local sales because they just don't have the durability to stand up to grading, packing, and shipping. Now, from the standpoint of harvesting blackberries, the frequency of harvest depends to some extent upon weather. Warmer weather conditions lead to more accelerated ripening, but in general, harvest typically takes place twice a week. Very important to harvest in the morning when the fruit is cool and when the fruit is full of water or turgid. Typically, harvest should be from the point in the morning when the dew dries on the fruit to around 10 a.m. Handle blackberries very carefully during harvest, particularly if they're being harvested at dull black. Place the berries gently into containers no deeper than 2 inches and transport them as soon as possible to cooling facilities. Every hour of delay in cooling berries after harvest is roughly approximately a loss of a day of storage life. So again, very important to take berries as soon as they're harvested and cool them. Harvest containers, pick your own, very popular for blackberries. In this case, blackberries are typically harvested into 1-gallon buckets with plastic liners. And then after the checkout process, the berries are weighed, the plastic bag is removed from the plastic bucket, a twist tie is put on, and that's sent home with the customer. For pre-picked harvest, berries are frequently harvested directly into the sales container. Plastic clamshells are widely used. These could be pint, these could be quart, or even larger sized clamshells. But typically, again, you only have 2 layers of berries within the clamshell. If you pile berries deeper than 2 layers, you frequently will see problems with damaged berries and crushed berries at the bottom of the pack. As soon as possible, berries should be cooled. They can be held in cold storage for 2 to 14 days, again, depending upon, first of all, the cultivar. There are some cultivars that are firmer than others. The ripeness stage, as previously mentioned, berries that are harvested at shiny black, if cooled immediately and held at the proper temperature, can be held for up to 14 days. But berries that have been picked at dull black, even if they are cooled immediately and held at the right temperature, have a much reduced storage life. The bottom line is with dull black berries, they should be marketed as soon as possible. And ideal storage conditions for blackberries, a temperature of 0.5 to 0 degrees C, which is just above freezing, 31 to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and a relative humidity of around 90% to prevent desiccation of the berries. If there are any questions related to harvest or post-harvest handling of fruit crops, feel free to reach out to your regional horticulture field specialist. Find your county in which your farm or garden is located, identify the specialist assigned to that county, and feel free to reach out to them. If you live in a county that has an open position, find your closest specialist and reach out to them.